there will be 4 tea points. The first 2 tea points closest to the auditorium will be used for all guests. And while the red 2 tea points to the back, further from the auditorium, will be used for cadets. We will have only 30 minutes for the tea and leg stretch break, and thereafter we come back for the second presentation, which will be taken by Ms. Amina Mohammed. The Deputy Secretary General, United Nations. After that presentation would also be discussions. Her Excellency will be speaking on the topic weaponization of sex and protection of rights of women in conflict. And we have also carefully selected knowledgeable experts in this area to discuss this topic, to highlight more on the content of Her Excellency's presentation. Thereafter will be the presentation of souvenirs, closing remarks, and vote of thanks. After vote of thanks, we will take the national anthem, and all staff will form up cadets representatives and dignitaries will form up in front of the auditorium for group photograph with our guest speakers and discussants. After the group photograph will be a visit to our research and development display stand. Our research and development display stand is by the left side of the auditorium, and this will be coordinated by Professor Lieutenant Colonel Imam. Thereafter will be lunch and dispersal. Lunch will be served at the Academy headquarters for all our dignitaries and their academic branch headquarters for all visiting vice chancellors, academic staff, and senior non-academic staff of Nigerian Defense Academy. More lunch stands will be provided at the venues where we would have used for tea break. While we await the arrival of our guest speaker, His Excellency Executive Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Umar Zulum, for us to commence, may I please invite the band to give us a musical interlude. Band, please. the Executive Governor of Kaduna State, Senator Uba Sani, Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Taraba State, Dr. Abu Kefas, who is one of our discussants today, Your Excellency, our second guest speaker, Mrs. Amina Mohammed, Under-Secretary, United Nations, ably represented by Ms. Beatrice Eyong, our chief host, Commandant, Nigerian Defense Academy, Major General J.O. Ochai, Your Royal Highnesses, Principal Staff Officers from Defense and Service Headquarters, General Officer Commanding 1 Division Nigerian Army and Air Officer Commanding A Training Command, Commandants of Tri-Service and other training institutions, Vice Chancellors and other heads of academic institutions, Presidents of all courses graduated from Nigerian Defense Academy, Directors General, Principal Staff Officers from Defense and Service Headquarters, the Deputy Commandant, Nigerian Defense Academy, Academy Provost, representatives of heads of security agencies, ministries, departments, and agencies here present, former commandants of Nigerian Defense Academy, deans of faculties, senior officers both serving and retired, distinguished guests, our discussants and moderators, representatives of the coordinator, Nigerian Defense Academy Officers' Wives Association, gentlemen cadets, esteemed postgraduate students, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Caroline Obegeli Emeka Obonna, an Associate Professor of Critical Thinking and Educative Entertainment and Head of Center for Critical Thinking, Teaching and Learning, Nigerian Defense Academy. I'm most delighted to serve as your compere for today's historic seminar marking the 60th year anniversary of Nigerian Defense Academy. You are most welcome to the Academy Auditorium, the venue for this historic event. May I now invite us, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to rise for us to take the national anthem. May we be seated. Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to take an academic seminar These will be other guests. We have 4 discussants for this paper. in the persons of His Excellency Abu Kefas, Mr. Issa Sanusi, and Ms. Julie Sander. We will also have a second seminar to be taken by Her Excellency Ms. Amina Mohammed, Under Secretary General, United Nations. Also to discuss, Ms. Amina Mohammed is going to speak on the topic, weaponization of sex and protection. And to discuss the second paper will be Konefide Ukoha, Professor Bess Shedrack, Major General I.M. Yusuf, and we can see that this promises to be a highly enriching and enlightening event. I am most delighted to welcome you all as we open this event to mark the 60th anniversary of the establishment of this prestigious military training institution. May I now have the honor to invite our chief host, the Commandant, Nigerian Defense Academy, Major General J.O. Ochai, to present the Commandant's welcome address.
Our guest speaker, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Umara Zulu, member, Nigerian Institute, as well as so many other decorations. Your Excellency, the Governor of Kaduna State, Senator Comrade Basani, Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Taraba State, Dr. Abu Kefas, Your Excellency, our second guest speaker, Mrs. Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General, United Nations, ably represented by Mrs. Beatrice Ayon. Our chief host, Your Royal Highnesses, Principal Staff Officers from Defense and Service Headquarters, General Officer Commanding 1 Division Nigerian Army, and the Air Officer Commanding Air Training Command, Commandants of Tri-Service and other training institutions, Vice Chancellors and other heads of academic institutions, Director General, Principal Staff Officers from both Defense and Services Headquarters, the Deputy Commandant, Nigerian Defense Academy, the Academy Provost, representatives of security agencies, ministries, departments, and agencies here present today, former commandants of the Nigerian Defense Academy, deans of faculties, senior officers both serving and retired, representative of the coordinator, Nigerian Defense Academy Officers' Wives Association, our discussants and moderators, distinguished invited guests, gentlemen cadets, esteemed members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with immense sense of humility that I address this distinguished audience as we celebrate the 60th year anniversary of the Nigerian Defense Academy. The NDA is an institution with unwavering commitment to the defense of our nation and the protection of its citizens. The Nigerian Defense Academy was established on 5th February 1964 to meet the need for an autonomous institution for the training of officers of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. The Academy's 60th anniversary is a tribute to the institution's resilience, adaptability, and unwavering dedication to its mandate. As Nigeria grapples with evolving security challenges, the Academy remains an indispensable asset, nurturing a cohort of officers who will safeguard the nation's interests and uphold the values of duty, honor, and country. In fulfilling its purpose, the Academy has, since its inception, commissioned over 30,000 military officers, including several from sister African countries. Some of these countries include the Republic of Benin, Chad, Guinea, and the Gambia. Others are republics of Niger, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. The Nigerian Defense Academy was established with a vision to produce officers with broad-based training in both military and academic subjects, designed to serve as foundation for the future progressive development of officers of the Nigerian Armed Forces. In line with its vision, the Academy has been instrumental in producing officers who have made significant contributions to our national security, peacekeeping missions, and humanitarian efforts. The Academy's products continue to demonstrate exemplary leadership in various spheres, representing the values instilled in them during their time at the institution. The Academy has consistently strived to uphold its highest standards of professionalism, integrity, and discipline, which are the essential attributes of the men and women who serve the armed forces of Nigeria and fellow African countries. Over the past 6 decades, the Nigerian Defense Academy has stood as a symbol of excellence in the country's military education. A significant event in the journey of the Academy is the attaining of full degree awarding status in 1985. The degree program commenced with 2 faculties, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences and Faculty of Sciences, with a total of 6 academic departments. I am delighted to inform us here today that the academic branch has grown to a total of 5 faculties and 23 departments that award degrees in 25 different disciplines. In order to tap the potentials of the academic faculties, the Nigerian Defense Academy Postgraduate School was established in 2005 to offer postgraduate degrees, including doctorate degrees, in several disciplines. Similarly, the Academy continues to venture into several collaborations and partnerships, positively impacting on other military institutions, such as the Armed Forces Command and Staff College and the National Defense College, for the delivery of postgraduate programs. One other notable achievement of the Nigerian Defense Academy in recent years has been the inclusion of female cadets in the forces of Nigeria, diversity of our society. On this note, I wish to acknowledge the achievement of Cadet O.P. Owowo, who set record as the first Nigerian female cadet to be trained at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, in the United Kingdom. She achieved that feat by coming first overall after a very rigorous screening process amongst her peers, both male and female. Fostering collaboration and partnership, but also strengthens the bonds more secure and stable world. The Academy relocated to this present site in 2006, which enlarged its capacity to train more cadets for the Armed Forces of Nigeria. Since then, our commitment to unprecedented infrastructural development has positioned the Nigerian Defense Academy as a modern and cutting-edge institution. The Academy is proud of its state-of-the-art facilities that ensure our cadets receive the best possible training, preparing them to face the ever-evolving challenges of the 21st century. Through the dedication of our cadets and all officers that have passed through the Academy, we have become an indispensable force in safeguarding our borders, maintaining peace, and supporting national development initiatives. The theme of our seminar, Protection of Civilians in Conflict, resonates with the paramount importance of our role in not only defending our borders, but also in shielding the very fabric of our society, the civilians who entrust us with their security and safety. The seminar will feature two prominent key speakers, Professor Babagana Umara Zulum and Mrs. Amina Mohammed, who were specially identified with the key role they play in protection of civilians in conflict. The decision to select these two distinguished individuals for this seminar was never second-guessed, even amongst academic and military staff of the Nigerian Defense Academy, after having consulted nationally. I'll recall with profound memory my encounter with Professor Zulum when I was Commander 22 Armored Brigade in Dikwa. Then he was a commissioner in Borno State. He was on his way to deliver humanitarian assistance to the people of Kalabage local government, particularly Uran. And at this time, we still had pockets of Boko Haram operating within that area. And it was 5 p.m. and I told him that, Professor, is it not too late to go? Why not pass the night in Dikwa? And this time is a period when we become even nervous if our day patrols are not back in to the camps. And he said it's a sacrifice we have to make for our people, even if we have to lose our lives in the process. Professor Zulum, in the course of his service as commissioner in Borno State and now as governor, has come under several attacks, ambushes, and thankfully, he is with us alive today to share his experience. Similarly, Amina Mohammed has seen it all in the humanitarian side of the house. He was a one-time special assistant to the President Commander-in-Chief on Millennium Development Goal, and currently he is the Deputy Secretary General in charge of humanitarian affairs. There's no better person to contribute to this seminar than herself. She'll be delivering her lecture with us from New York this morning. Similarly, a rich panel of discussants, carefully selected from a range of stakeholders with rich experiences in protection of civilians in conflict, will bring an array of perspectives to the subject. I'll particularly identify His Excellency Agbu Kefas, who is not just a professional military officer, retired now, but a political leader who has created a lot of impact in his state, Taraba, within the short period he has been governor of that state. His Excellency will join us as we progress on this seminar. I am strongly convinced that we will leave this seminar with enhanced knowledge gained from the experiences of today's speakers and discussants. As we delve deeper into the celebration of the 60th anniversary of this esteemed institution, we will not only reveal the accomplishments of the past, but also chart a course for even a more impactful future. Our commitment to the protection of civilians in conflict will be a guiding principle in all our endeavors. The future beckons on us to stand up to determination, collaboration, unwavering commitment, and loyalty to our nation as we stride into the next chapter of our illustrious history. The Academy will continue to prioritize ethical conduct, respect for human rights, and adherence to local and international laws and conventions in its training models. We will also continue to inculcate in our officer cadets to uphold the high standards of professionalism, integrity, and loyalty in their service to the nation. Before I take my seat, I must recognize and acknowledge the efforts of some of the founding fathers of the nation in whose time this academy was established. The first being Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, the first Prime Minister. Whom the Western press described as the golden voice of Africa. It was during his time as Prime Minister that the decision to establish this academy was taken and implemented. I also wish to acknowledge the first Minister of Defense of this nation, under whose watch the academy was established, Alhaji Muhammadu Ribadu. Alhaji Ribadu's colleagues in the cabinet then called him the power of powers because of his pragmatism in leadership. It was under his watch that the Nigerian Defense Academy was established. I wish to also thank our President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, who has supported the academy since he became the President Commander-in-Chief. And these have enhanced our capacity to deliver on our core mandate till date. On this note, may the Nigerian Defense Academy continue to stand as a beacon of strength, integrity, and service to our beloved nation. I wish all of us a highly successful seminar. Thank you all, and may God bless.
With that welcome remark from the chief host, Nigerian Defense Academy welcomes all of you to this auspicious event. Before we settle into what promises to be a day of intellectual enrichment for all of us, may I please remind us to switch off our mobile phones or at best put them in silent mode. I will also use this opportunity to invite Squadron Leader S.I. Onyemachi to give us a safety brief before we move into the event of the day. Squadron Leader Onyemachi, please. Squadron Leader Onyemachi is the Security Officer of Nigerian Defense Academy.
Morning. I am Squadron Leader S.I. Onyemachi, the Safety Officer. Stand by for safety brief. Welcome to the Academy Auditorium, Nigerian Defense Academy, Afaka. This brief is to acquaint you with the orientation of the auditorium as well as safety and security arrangements in place. In case of emergency, please do not panic. There are 6 doors in this auditorium. Please get yourself acquainted with the exit and entry closest to you. If you're on a high table, there are 2 exits on either side. The exit to my near left is exclusively reserved to the special guests, the commandant, as well as his principal staff officers. The exit to my near right is readily available to other guests seated at the high table. If you find yourself seated at the outer recess 1, which is by my far left, there is an exit to your right. On the other hand, recess 2, which is located by my far right, you are to use the exit by your left. For those at the top floor of the building, you are at the inner recess 1 or 2. There are 2 exits just behind that will lead you to the staircase. This staircase will ultimately lead you to the general exit out of the main hall of the auditorium. Please acquaint yourself to the staircase closest to you. If you're on the railroad of the ground floor, there are 2 general exits behind you. They are there for your use. For convenience, there are restrooms situated within the auditorium behind all entry and exit points. For safety and precautions, the auditorium is equipped with fire extinguishers and fire alarms strategically placed. Moreover, a manned firefighting truck is situated just close to the premises of the Academy Auditorium. In case of any medical emergency, there are ambulances stationed within the premises of the Academy Auditorium. In an unlikely event of a fire outbreak or security breach, guests and participants are please requested to leave the building in an orderly manner. This is to give the authority time and space to combat the situation. Thank you for listening. Relax and enjoy the program. Thank you.
Thank you for that safety brief. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to move into the key event for the day. Before we take the first lecture, may I have the honor to give a brief citation of our first guest speaker. Brief citation of Professor Babagana Umara Zulum, CON, MNI, FNSC, FNIAE, Registered Quran, the Executive Governor of Borno State and Chairman, Northeast Governors Forum. Professor Engineer Babagana Umara Zulum was born on 25th of August 1969 as a Kanuri from Mafa town of Mafa local government area of Borno State. At an early age, he began his formal education at Mafa Primary School in 1975, from where he moved on to Government Secondary School Mungonu and obtained a General Certificate of Education in 1985. With a determination to further his education, the young Babagana Umara was at the Ramat Polytechnic Maiduguri between 1986 and 1988 and obtained National Diploma in Irrigation Engineering. Following that, he attended the University of Maiduguri between 1990 and 1994, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in engineering, majoring in agricultural engineering. He later proceeded to the prestigious University of Ibadan from the year 1997 to 1998, where he obtained a Master of Science in Agricultural Engineering with specialty in soil and water conservation. Still yearning for more education, he went back to the University of Maiduguri from 2005 to 2008 to obtain a PhD in Agricultural and Environmental Resource Engineering, majoring in Soil and Water Engineering. Engineer Umara has a wealth of work experience, beginning as an Assistant Technical Officer in the Borno State Ministry of Agriculture in 1989 and rose through the rank to the position of Principal Water Engineer in 1999. He later joined the services of the University of Maiduguri as an assistant lecturer in the year 2000, where he taught several undergraduate and postgraduate courses in social science, soil science and engineering. As an astute academic and researcher, Dr. Umara was upgraded to Lecturer 2 only a year later in 2001, and did not rest on his laurels until he was promoted to the prestigious rank of Professor of Agricultural Engineering in the year 2014. Professor Engineer Umara has over 18 years of research experience in the field of soil and water engineering. He has supervised several undergraduate and postgraduate students' research and also served as external examiner to many academic institutions like Department of Agricultural Technology, Ramat Polytechnic Maiduguri, and Department of Agriculture, Federal Polytechnic Bauchi. He served in various committees and held numerous appointments in the University of Maiduguri, such as Departmental Examination Officer and Acting Head of Department, Agric Engineering, and later as Deputy Dean and Acting Dean, Faculty of Engineering. Prior to joining the services of the University of Maiduguri, Umara had served as consultant to many organizations, some of the most notable ones being service provider on irrigation and soil water to Borno, Yobe, and Zamfara States Fadama Development Program since 2006 to date. He was also a member governing council, Ramat Polytechnic Maiduguri, from 2009 to 2011. Consultant to the World Bank on a study on capitalization of small-scale irrigation projects in West Africa countries of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Nigeria from September 2009 to 2011. He was a consultant to International Water Management on the review of irrigation situation in Nigeria in 2010. He was also a resource person to International Food Policy Research Institute for the development of study methodology on irrigation and mechanization in Nigeria in 2011. The professor was also consultant to the World Bank Nigeria Fadama 3 project on independent assessment of the project activity in mid-term 2012. He was appointed as the rector, Ramat Polytechnic Maiduguri, Borno State in 2011, from where he was later nominated and subsequently enrolled into the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, Jos Plateau State, Nigeria, in 2014. In September 2015, the Executive Governor of his state, His Excellency Honorable Kashim Shettima, found him worthy to be appointed as Honorable Commissioner of the newly created Borno State Ministry of Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement, and also member of State Executive Council. Professor Umara Zulu rendered an unreserved, outstanding meritorious service as Commissioner for Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement, and in 2019, Destiny beckoned on him, a seasoned politician, an outstanding scholar, to present his paper as our guest speaker. Professor, Your Excellency, sir.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The special guest of honor, the chief host and commandant Nigeria Defense Academy, the deputy commandant, the academy provost, director of military training, principal staff officers, professors, my fellow presenters and dear sisters, Her Excellency Hajia Amina Mohammed, distinguished invited guests, officer, cadets, postgraduate student, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My presentation will not be as regimental as General Ochai did. I saw him posing very well and obeying all the rules and regulations. My colleague, the governor of Taraba State, another distinguished guest, especially I saw my senior brother, the former Commandant General Ama Yusuf, on the screen. I bring to you fraternal greetings from the good and resilient people of Borno State. I consider it an essential honor to stand before you to share my thoughts and reflections on the protection of civilians in armed conflict. When the invitation was conveyed to me by the Commandant, Major General Jai Ochai, I accepted without hesitation because of the topic which speaks to the core of my duty call in Borno State. I also consider it a privilege to appear before this gathering of experts, scholars and generals in the NDA, being the pioneer military university in Africa south of the Sahara. Equally, my personal connection with General Ochai, who served us so well in the Northeast Theater of Operation, gingered me to accept this invitation. General Ochai was a brigade commander when I was the Commissioner for Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement. And that brings me to the topic also. Okay. General Ochai was the brigade commander in Dikwa when I was the Commissioner for Reconstruction and Resettlement. And then we shared this ambition. When we had many internally displaced persons living in the internally displaced camps, I told him that the only way we can end this insurgency is by adopting some social, economic, and political measures to end the insurgency. I was looking forward to see how I will resettle people back to Dikwa. While many officers and men have developed coal pits in resettling people back to their communities. General Ochai was the one who even advised me to do everything possible to resettle the displaced communities. When hundreds of army officers don't even want to hear the word of resettlement, he called me and he said, Prof, whatever you will do, if you want to see the end of this crisis, you must return your people to their ancestral homes so that they can earn their means of livelihood by themselves. I must commend our brave officers and men, soldiers of the armed forces of Nigeria, other security agencies and our development partners for working tirelessly in our quest to restore peace and development in our state and country at large. Then, coming down to the main topic, you have seen on the board, food for thought. Do civilian lives matter in contemporary conflicts? Two scenarios and some questions on the board. One. First is the ongoing Gaza conflict, which commenced on 7 October 2023. On that fateful day, militants of the Hamas movement invaded Israel and killed over 1,200 Israelis, most of whom were civilians, took over more than 200 hostages, and destroyed military facilities and civil homes. Israel's retaliations have been sweeping and overwhelming. Then, the South African government have also took Israeli into court. But unfortunately, despite the verdicts, the war is still ongoing. The Palestinian Ministry of Health has reported that nearly 25,000 Palestinians were killed. And most of them are the vulnerables, especially women. More than 40% of civil homes in the Gaza Strip have been razed down after temporary ceasefire to allow for passage of humanitarian aid to Gaza. Unfortunately, despite the verdict compelling Israel, let me see this one. Despite the verdict compelling Israel to abide by the international humanitarian law and laws of armed conflict, all to no avail, as of today, the Gaza Strip is in ruins. And there is no end in the sight. The second example is the Boko Haram. The Boko Haram insurgency has triggered acute humanitarian and post-displacement crisis, with devastating social and economic impact on our population, further deepening fragility and poverty in the northeast sub-region. The drivers of the displacement in Nigeria, even though are multidimensional and complex, the emergence of Boko Haram has altered the trend and trajectory of displacement in Nigeria. Next. The insurgency in Borno State has impacted negatively on our population. Close to about 1 million homes were destroyed. Close to about 250 health centers were destroyed. About 5,000 classrooms were destroyed by Boko Haram. About 800 municipal buildings were destroyed by Boko Haram in Borno State. We harvested a total number of about 50,000 orphans and about 50,000 widows. These figures are official figures. The unofficial figures are more than this. About 1,600 energy distribution lines were destroyed by Boko Haram. We almost lost our flora and fauna species. About 2.5 million, 3.2 million were displaced in the entire northeastern states. The outcome of the recovery and peace building assessment by the World Bank, EU, and UN revealed that about $6 billion was lost as a result of the insurgency in the entire northeastern states. And this has impacted negatively on the lives of the people of Borno State. Next, in view of the foregoing, the following questions are pertinent. What are the limitations of the laws of armed conflict and international humanitarian law in defending, safeguarding, and shielding civilians who are trapped in war? What are the responsibilities of warring parties in protecting civilians? And do they abide by the law of war? Where are these violations can international law provide sufficient deterrence against those who may toy with the idea of war violations? How can we avoid war in this first place? And where war or violent confrontations become inevitable, how can we strengthen municipal and international law to ensure that civilians' lives and properties are protected? These are some questions worth pondering by academics, defense and security practitioners, war commanders, politicians, and policymakers. Before I go on, I want to ask one very important question. Who are harming the politicians, the civilians? The question is that it's not only, for example, in the Northeast, it's not only the Boko Haram insurgents that are harming the civilians. I don't want to mention this one, but the civilians were also harmed by the Nigerian military. As well as the paramilitary. I'm also a victim. As a governor of Borno State, I was attacked many times by Boko Haram. Somehow, I don't want to mention it, I was also attacked by the state actors. Simply because some thought I'll stop them from getting what they want. The question is that among the Nigerian army officers and men, we have very qualified, very credible among them that are doing extremely well in protecting the lives and properties of the citizens. But that does not mean that we don't have the bad ones. We also have the bad ones. While commending those that are good, we also have to acknowledge what is ongoing. And therefore, the civilians have faced a lot of problems. I did a presentation a few days ago in Ibadan on leadership, where I made some certain statements. One of the statements that I made was that a country of 230 million leaders in citizens requires 230 million citizens. That means each and every one of us is a leader. So the responsibility of leadership does not rest on the title holders of your excellencies, our excellencies, or the commandant, or the chief of army staff, and so forth. The citizens have to play their critical role in maintaining law and order That is why, while I did say that civilians were affected by both the Boko Haram, ISWAP, and others in the northeastern part of Nigeria, but also the civilians also have problems. The Boko Haram members are our own sons and daughters. Sometimes they hide within the villages, towns, and cities to the knowledge of the civilians. It became very difficult for the state actors to distinguish between the civilians and the enemy. And you can understand why some civilians are affected. Then coming down to the main event, content. The introduction, civilian protection in armed conflicts. It's a critical and evolving aspect of international humanitarian law, aiming to safeguard the lives and well-being of non-combatants who find themselves caught in the midst of hostilities. The plight of civilians during armed conflicts has been a long-standing concern, prompting the development of legal framework and international instrument. The plight of civilians during armed conflicts has been a long-standing concern, prompting the development of legal instrument and international instrument to mitigate the impact of warfare on innocent lives. The Geneva Conventions, a series of treaties established in the aftermath of World War II, from the cornerstone of international humanitarian law, providing a set of guidelines for the protection of civilians in times of armed conflicts. One key development in the realm of civilian protection is the additional protocols to the Geneva Conventions, particularly Protocol 1 and Protocol 2, adopted in 1977. Protocol 1 extends the protection of civilians to those in international armed conflicts, while Protocol 2 focuses on non-international armed conflicts. Then, despite the legal frameworks and efforts, challenges persist in effectively protecting civilians during armed conflicts. The rise of non-state armed groups, the proliferation of asymmetric warfare, and the use of unconventional tactics pose ongoing challenges to establish norms and call for continued adoption of legal instruments. What matters is that it's not that we don't have the laws, but we have the problem of compliance. Next, conceptual notes framing the protection of civilians in armed conflicts. In this section, I briefly just want to go through these sections. I want to define what we mean by civilian protection. The question that comes to my mind is, who is a civilian, as I said it before? The civilian, I think, is that particular person who is not participating in the war. In armed conflict, civilians are individuals who are not members of the armed forces or other organized armed groups. They are considered non-combatants. Armed conflict refers to a situation in which there is a use of armed force between two or more organized groups or states. Civilian protection. The first question that comes to my mind is, no, next. The state actors or nations often play a central role in armed conflicts. They can be aggressors or defenders, and their military forces are typically involved in the conflict. For example, in the Syrian civil war, the non-state actors can include rebel groups, insurgent movement, and militias. Then who are the humanitarian actors, such as the International Committee of the Red Cross and Médecins Sans Frontières, play a crucial role in armed conflicts by providing medical aid, food, and other essential services to affected populations. Media organizations and information platforms also play a role in armed conflicts by shaping public opinion, influencing perceptions, and disseminating information. The media can have a significant impact on the narrative and outcomes of conflicts. Then coming down to the humanitarian workers also. I'm in this business for a long time, especially many don't want to hear this story. I don't believe in some of the activities that are being done by ICRC. Whereby they are saying they are neutral. Neutral to who? Neutral to who? When they are injured, normally they used to go and provide services for them. These are Boko Haram members, ISWAP members. They have not surrendered, killing our people, yet they are providing support to them, for them. They are calling them to come and rescue them whenever they have some certain problems. We have to be very careful. Otherwise, our conflicts will not end. While acknowledging the tremendous support of humanitarian partners in the entire northeastern sub-region, we also have to say a lot of things that will ensure speedy ending of the crisis. For example, in Borno State now, we have over 250 non-governmental organizations, national and international governmental organizations. This is a very serious matter. Government has to take the lead. We must know who does what, which is very important. Under no circumstances, somebody will come and carry out activities without informing the Nigerian government. They operate within the boundaries of international law and humanitarian principles. There are those who believe that soldiers are trained to kill and paid to die. We must therefore reflect by making the best of efforts to clarify some misconceptions, such as the very first statement that I made. The primary objective of rule of engagement is to minimize civilian casualties, protect non-combatants, and adhere to the principles of professionality and distinction between combatants and civilians. Additionally, the principle of distinction mandates a clear differentiation between combatants and non-combatants. Ensure that civilians are not targeted. This convention establishes rules for the protection of civilian prisoners of war and other non-combatants during armed conflicts. Violation of these rules can result in war crime charges and accountability for individuals responsible for such action. Next. Rules of engagement also. I can just mention them and proceed because there is a need for time management. Rules of engagement are orders issued by competent military authority that define the extent to which military personnel may use force in self-defense or to accomplish their mission. Next. Then let me go to the character of contemporary armed conflicts. This chapter speaks about the issues. Contemporary armed conflict has undergone significant transformations, presenting a complex landscape characterized by a myriad of actors, unconventional warfare, and technological advancements. Some key issues are crucial in appreciating the character of contemporary armed conflict. These are changing actors in armed conflicts. Before then, most of the war that had happened in the whole world, it happens between the state actors. But now, we have the non-state actors, terrorist organizations, and transnational criminal networks. Protecting civilians under this scenario is very difficult because normally they don't adhere to the international humanitarian laws. The rise of non-state actors challenges conventional notions of warfare, blurring the lines between combatants and civilians, and complicating the application of international humanitarian law. For example, the conflicts in Syria and Yemen involve a multitude of state and non-state actors. Another issue is that of unconventional warfare and asymmetric threats. Contemporary armed conflict is characterized by unconventional warfare, where non-traditional methods such as cyber attacks, propaganda, and irregular tactics play a crucial role. The use of guerrilla tactics, insurgency, and hybrid warfare challenges traditional military doctrines, requiring adaptability and innovation in response strategies. Next, about 1.6 million civilians were expected as a result of the insurgency. As a result, another issue is that of technological advancements in warfare. Now we have a lot of technological advancements, including artificial intelligence, robotics, unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and cyber capabilities have transformed the nature of the conflict. Boko Haram and ISWAP members are using drones. Some are even using helicopters. Then the worst is. In the beginning, I've given you some statistics of some of the structures that were destroyed. And the worst is that civilians were denied access to their agricultural lands. That is the worst situation. Food insecurity is the worst form of insecurity. When police stations were destroyed, health centers were destroyed, water sources were destroyed, this will significantly, negatively will have impact on the population. Again, for example, in Borno State, the war in Borno State has some certain root causes. The root causes of the insurgency are not limited to increasing poverty, increasing climate vulnerabilities, as well as increasing infrastructural deficit. Then, the question is that, why the insurgency has taken a very long time in northeastern Nigeria. It's because of the following reasons. Then most especially because of trust deficit between the population and the armed forces. For a long period of about 7 to 8 years, when military officers are protecting the lives of the civilians, they don't want the civilians to be killed. Yes, it's right. But stopping the civilian means civilians to have access to their agricultural lands is the worst scenario. That has further compounded the crisis in Borno State. We reach a stage whereby sometime the civilians will say, for these military people it's better for the Boko Haram to come and kill us. Then, after some time, the Nigerian army realized some of the mistakes that they did, and they decided to establish a very strong institutional arrangement that would enhance civil-military relationship. By doing so, this has reduced the trust deficit between the armed forces and the civilians. And because of this, the insurgency in Borno State has tremendously reduced. When I took over power as the governor of Borno State in 2019, the first thing that I did was to bridge the gap, trust deficit between the government and the civilian population. We have had series of consultations between the Nigerian army, and we resolved that we shall adopt non-kinetic approach of ending the insurgency. Some of these stakeholders consultative forum include the Nigerian armed forces, the federal government, the state government, the communities, among others. We resolve, among others, that one, we shall receive repentant Boko Haram members. And honestly speaking, the current Chief of Defense Staff, General Siji Musa, was the theater commander in Borno State. And he has given us tremendous support. So, by adopting the non-kinetic measures of ending the insurgency, within few months after our first meeting, we started witnessing mass defection of Boko Haram members. Yes, we started witnessing it. As at now, within the last 2 years, we received. This will never be peaceable without the support of the Nigerian armed forces. Therefore, I want to use this